You are now listening to the Hunter's Advantage podcast. We preserve the history and sport of hunting through curious conversation and action-packed hunts, as well as offering you tips and strategy for more successful hunts. The Hunter's Advantage podcast is powered by Out on a Limb Manufacturing. Out on a Limb is a family-owned company based right here in Oklahoma that makes tree stands, saddle platforms, climbing sticks, and so much more.
Christian, I have a quick question.
What's that?
What bites down harder, a hippo or an alligator?
No idea.
It's a trick question. The Ridge Runner 2.0 bites harder than both of them. But all jokes aside, we use these products all across the land on public or private. These help us get into any tree we want and hunt where the deer actually are.
Most men go to the grocery store for their meat, but these products help you go to God's grocery store. I have used the Out on a Limb Ridge Runner 2.0 and the Shakar sticks for the last few years hunting public land bucks, and I've actually shot several bucks out of this setup. If you want to support the podcast and get some Out on a Limb equipment, make sure to go to outonalimbmfg.com and use code HNTA10 for 10% off at checkout. Once again, if you want to support the podcast, go to outonalimbmfg.com and use code HNTA10 at checkout for 10% off. Now let's get back to the podcast.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Hunter's Advantage podcast. This is episode 190, and today I am joined with Christy Babcock and Payton 02212, or whatever that is.
02212? I think it was 0224.
0224?
Yeah, the old birthday.
The only reason I used to remember that because that was your garage code, wasn't it?
Dude, that still is his garage code. Why are you going to give that away?
It probably is.
Carol,
so that's how the robbers got you at Hunters, huh?
Exactly.
Long time listener, probably.
Well, I have to get Carol to tell a story that he told me about 5 minutes ago that he tried to tell me again that I cut him off. So Carol has obviously been practicing. The man's just a machine on the practice range. What happened to you, Carol? Did Mike Tyson come to your backyard before we got on this podcast? What happened?
So I was out shooting my bow, and I probably only shot like 5 or 6 arrows, and it's just one of those days, that you should just sit your bow down, go back inside, and everything that could go wrong was going wrong. I just got a new target, was shooting my broadheads at my target. I was shooting like 2 or 3 inches low at 20 yards. So I was frustrated, getting super frustrated. And about like the 7th or 8th arrow, I go to pull my bow back, and all of a sudden I feel whack right in my face. And I've never been knocked out before, but I am out on my feet. I come around to it. I've got my bow in my hand. I'm looking around. I was like, I don't know what just happened. It turns out I hit my button on my release, I guess pulling back, or my release gave out. I have no idea. I must have touched the button. My hand came back, hit me right on the jaw, the lips, and the nose. Knocked me out on my feet while I'm standing up. And I look around, and the first thing I think is, well, do I have all my teeth? So I checked my teeth. I was like, all right, I got all my teeth, and was like, where's my arrow at? Because I'm in the middle of a neighborhood. We got a fence back behind our house. And I look, at my arrow's in the ground about 10 foot in front of me. Thank God I always draw my bow back at the target or to the ground. I never pull up in the air to draw it back. So yeah, slap myself right in the face with my release in my hand. Actually, the first time I've ever been knocked out.
And today's the day you figured out you had a glass chin and you hit like a girl, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That's the first time I've been punched in the face plenty of times. That's the first time that I've ever been like, I didn't know where I was at / I would have been in trouble if I was in an actual fight.
Just think about it. That's how GSP or Johnny Hendricks felt when GSP got a hold of him all those years ago.
Yeah, sure looked like it. Sure looked like it.
Yeah. That was about as rigged as the OU. What was that? Boise State. Some sort of Was it Boise State on that onside kick or something? Yeah, that was like 2006 or something.
No, that was Oregon. That was Oregon.
That's right.
When they did the onside kick, yeah.
Yeah.
Go YouTube that if you're an OU fan to bring back some memories. I think I broke a TV over that one.
Yeah.
It's all good. You went to Oklahoma State. You're good now.
Yep.
Yeah, that's even worse.
Life.
Yeah.
Anyways, since I guess it is a hunt talk episode,
First one of the season, boys. Woo!
Yeah, I don't have much to talk about, so I guess I'll be asking the questions on this one. So who's gonna start? Which one are we doing? I guess we're gonna break this into 2 episodes.
Yeah, we're gonna do 2 episodes because we had a very eventful opening weekend, I guess you could say, or opening 3 days of hunting season. So we're gonna break it into 2 parts. One will come out now as people are listening, and then one in a couple days. So that's what we're gonna do. It's only the 9th. I mean, I think most of us have only got to hunt a couple of times, so there's not like an immense amount to talk about. We're gonna break it up. We had some action.
I've only hunted twice, and let me tell you, that's about to change this week.
About to get into it this week.
We are. So how do you want to start this thing? You just want to go like
chronological
opening morning, and then but I guess before that, do you have any previous history with that buck or anything?
No previous history with the deer shot. No, not at all.
So nothing on camera leading up to this.
I've had pictures of him. I've
Okay.
had pictures of him, but like nothing leading up to it. But yeah, I mean, before we jump into that, like, what's up with October weddings? Whose idea was that? Because the last 2 weekends I've had weddings.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say that I'm a really, really good friend. Is all that I can say, because
when you were at the wedding, you were getting all kinds of trail cam pics.
Yeah, I was at the wedding, and it's like, oh my goodness, now I got to drive from this. I get to go sleep in my truck. I'll get a good 2.5 hours of sleep. Do that for a few days, and then go to another wedding. So,
well, I'm pretty sure it's the coldest day of the year. So far, and it happened to be on the same day that the wedding was on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Talking about this last weekend. Opening weekend, I think you did the exact same thing that I did, Carroll, right? Which was, I had a wedding down in Central Texas, like September 30th, and on that Saturday, and you had a wedding in OKC that same night.
Yep.
Yeah. So we both drove after the weddings. It sucks because I was like putting in my Google Maps how far it was to hunt, because we had deer showing up on both leases. Like, Carroll was hunting one of the leases and I was hunting a different one, and we had deer daylighting pretty much. I mean, not a ton the week before, but like they were in there for here and there. And so we ended up driving up. You had a very short drive though, right?
Not really short. It was 3.5 hours, I think. 3.5 hours. Shorter compared to yours.
From the wedding though, was what, a couple hours?
Yeah, I think it was like 3 hours somewhere in there.
Jeez. Yeah. Well, I know the power of opening day because opening day last year was really, really good. So I had to like barter and argue with Lauren to like let me drive all night, because it's obviously not one of the safest things, but I knew opening morning could be pretty juicy, even though we weren't getting trail cam pics the whole time. But I literally drove from the wedding, drove an hour back to my house, dropped Lauren off. I had my truck like packed up from the night before, drove 6 hours up to the lease. And by the time I got to the lease, I texted Carroll, and he was waking up from sleeping in his truck all night out at the lease. How was
not all night. Don't give me too much. Yeah, Carroll got a 10-hour sleep, man. He was good to go. No, not quite.
Carroll's the guy to sleep with. He's the guy to be in his truck for 12 hours and then be like, dude, I only got an hour of sleep though.
It is.
It ain't the most comfy.
Yeah, it's not comfy at all. I woke up probably like 15 times. And at one point I woke up and was like, I only have 45 more minutes of sleep. I'm just going to stay awake. And not even try to go back to sleep. It's going to take me 25 more minutes to go back. Then I'm going to hear my alarm 10 minutes later, and it's going to piss me off.
Would you rather drive all night and not sleep, or sleep just a couple hours in the truck?
Oh, sleep a couple hours for sure.
Okay. I was wondering. Different people deal with that differently. Like, some people are, if I can't get 5 hours, then I won't even try to sleep. But I drove pretty much all night and pulled up. I think it got light around 6:59 or 7, something like that. And I pulled up to the lease, and it was like 5:20 or something. Texted Carroll. I think you got up at like 5:45 or something like that.
Yeah.
Went out to the lease, and I got dressed, and I gotta say, this is probably one of the only openers where it felt like deer season when I went out, like weather wise, because we got a cold front the opening weekend, which is October 1st, and then we got a cold front this last weekend, which like the 7th, and it was probably 50s, Carol, 60s, low 60s.
Probably like low 60s, I think.
That's cold in October.
It warmed up fast. I'll say that. It was. I was like, all right, jacket. Then 30 minutes of the hunt. All right, no jacket. I'm sweating.
That's one of those where you have your heater on going to the stand, and then after, when you're heading home to get breakfast or a burger, that's when you have your AC or the windows down or something like that. It's one of those confusing times of year.
Mm-hmm. I was sweating like a pig on the way back to the truck after, but I pulled up and literally had enough time to get dressed, shove my bow in the back seat. I have these couple dogs that are on my leash, so like it's one of those situations that if you stick around too long at the truck, they'll kind of like meander up to you. And so I had all my stuff, like I was gonna open the door, grab my bow, and take off walking. And that way, by the time they got to the truck, it's like, oh, he's not there anymore. So I did that, got into the stand.
That's when you need a hot shot, just to keep in your truck, and once they get up there, just zap them.
Yeah. Or like a deal of donuts, just throw one as hard as you can the other direction. No, but I got into the stand, I think about 6:30, and it's tricky getting into these. Like I understand why some people don't hunt October mornings, especially when you're hunting over a feeder, because it was tough getting in there. Like all those deer that I was hunting were under 100 yards from that spot, and so I walked in, jumped over the fence, and there was like a big thunderstorm that had been there the week before, I think, and there was so much blowdown in there. Like an entire tree fell like 10 feet from the feeder and changed like the paths that the deer were taking in there. And when I got to my tree stand at like 6:30, there was like an entire limb up off the like first 4 steps of the tree stand. And so I just like hiked my leg up, grabbed my back of my heel, and like put it up on the 4th step, and then reached up and grabbed the next one and like, and I pulled up. And of course the stand is like, has some of the not zip ties, but like metal ties, like keeping the holes in. And I grabbed it, and it was like, I was like, awesome, sweet. And so I climbed up in that sucker, but legit at like 6:30, I look over on my phone. I'm like, all right, 6:32 after I got the camera and everything set up. And I hear, I'm like, oh, they were close. They were really close. Did you have a smoother intro to the stand, Carol, than I did?
No, I did not. It had been so long. I got there and I was like, well, now what? I get to the base of the tree. I'm like, I don't remember what to do from here. I go.
Were you using your saddle?
No. We have a tree stand. I go to reach in my bag, realize, well, I don't have a string in here anymore because my bag got stolen. So I get out of the truck. Bag. First thing I do is to go to grab my headlamp. I was like, I don't have a headlamp. I forgot that got stolen out of my bag. So I used my phone to go all the way there, get there, go to grab my string. I was like, I don't have a string. This is awesome. So I was like, well, hopefully I don't need anything else. I got my bow, I got arrows, I got my release. That's pretty much like, that's what I have to have. Yeah. So I finally get up, I get in the tree, and my camera arm also got taken. So I had to buy a new camera arm. Oh, I didn't tighten the bolts to the camera arm. And down there in Southwest, there's no just like straight up. You just have to make trees work. Like there's no.
They're elm trees. They're only like 20 foot tall, and they go like this in every direction.
They're not. You just got to make what you have work. So I put my camera on a limb, and of course my camera arm's just swinging around, and I just can't. I finally, like 2 minutes before I'm legally able to shoot, is when I got set down. And I was quiet through the whole process because I was really taking my time. But I had deer on the feeder while I was still sitting there, like trying to get ready. I would check my phone, like, all right, 2 doe, we're good. That's it.
Isn't that terrible on cell cams? You're like, all right, I can't see what they are. Okay, yep, 2 does.
Yeah. There we go. Yeah. So yeah, not a smooth intro. Not a smooth intro. But I got set up finally.
Yeah. I got set up and it was good. And like this spot that I'm hunting is so freaking cool because it's like this river bottom property, and it's basically like there's trees that probably about 100-yard gap of just trees that kind of go along the river, and it's mixed in with like I think there's some oaks in there, some elms. There's a bunch of different like kind of, and there's a bunch of shrubby looking trees, like not really tall. So we're in one of the big ones in there, not any cottonwoods or anything, but I got in one of those big trees in there, and it's such a cool spot because that entire strip of bedding or that entire strip around the river that runs probably half a mile is just bedding. And so there's so many deer in that spot. And with, like I said, within 2 minutes, there were deer just filtering all around me, and they come from every direction. We had a southeast wind that morning, and it would hit me on the side of the face. I'm like, okay, cool, I'm perfect. And then I'd feel it hit me on the other side of the face. I'm like, ooh.
Yeah,
Like
I had that same thing happen where I would get sit up and I had it hitting me, in the face, and I was like, oh,
Perfect.
oh yeah. And then 2 seconds later, it's hitting me on my left cheek, or my right cheek, and I was like, no, not perfect, not perfect, not at all.
Well, that happened to me. And as I'm sitting there, I got one deer that walks out in front of me, probably 10 yards. I'm like, okay, cool. It's like it's too dark to see. I pull out my binos. I'm like, all right, that's a scrub buck. I know which one that is. Put him back in. And then as the wind hits me in the right side of the face, I look over and I see a deer go. And I'm like, ooh, what is that? I pull up my binos and I just see a unit of a body, just a tank. And we got this deer in there that we called wart nose because he has like a third beam coming out of his nose, but it's really small. It's like a little bitty one. And he's a mature buck. Like he was 5.5 or 6 last year. And he's 6'7" this year. And he looks like a refrigerator. And so I'm like, that's a mature buck. And there's several mature bucks in there that I'm after. I'm after a real tall, symmetrical 10-point, like another 10-point that's kind of lopsided. And then wart nose, I probably wasn't going to shoot him this early, but I would definitely shoot him later on in the year. And I put my binos on him, and I can tell that it's him. And he's standing at like 25 yards. And he knows that something is up, but he just sat there and was just like a stone, just sat there. And I watched him for probably 15 or 20 minutes. And then
So he got a whiff
deer.
of you.
Oh, he whiffed me so hard. Cause like I said, it swirled and hit him in the face. And throughout the morning, I kept getting like busted, but no, he caught me pretty much immediately. You can tell too, like those mature bucks, he wanted to come in, but he's like, I'm going to stay right out here for a little bit. Those other little ones were like bebopping in real easy, which was funny. But no, but by probably 6:45, 10 minutes before shooting light, I had 5-7 deer like all around me.
That's wild. That's wild. But that's also like kind of paints the picture of how close you actually are to where they bed from.
So close. And these spots are so cool. The leases are so cool because I'm not kidding. The places that Payton and I are hunting, those are spots that a deer does not see a person, but like 2-3 times a year when someone's going in to feed or set up a stand or set up a camera. Like those deer act like deer should. They just meander around. Like it's October 1st. It's in the 60s. There's no rush, but all those deer get up and they're moving in, which is pretty awesome. But I had some pretty good action early morning. Pate, what were you into besides your 2 does?
I had probably a 2.5-year-old buck come in, and he fiddled around at like 10-15 yards. I was like, man. Oh,
he about fiddled around and found out.
Yeah, he was like, he wasn't a shooter, but I'm like, even when you have those mornings, because we hunt a lot of public, and if you even see a deer on public, you're like, boys, get the booze, we won. Like we did it. And it's so weird. It's so weird to be able to go and you're like, hey, I'm 5 minutes in and I'm in the deer,
Isn't that a good feeling though?
Yeah. You're like, man, this is really nice. I could get used to this. So yeah, it was pretty awesome. Having that buck, it kind of gave me that feeling like, okay, he's moving. So why wouldn't others be moving? I've also, one thing that I've gotten used to too is when I first start hunting, even if I would see a doe, I could shiver out of my clothes and get so nervous. But this year, along with last year, I was shaking. I get the shakes after I shoot, but I've kind of gotten over that. Maybe you put 160, 170 inch deer in front of me, that's different, but I don't really get nervous anymore. Like I wasn't nervous. I just tell myself like, all right, as long as you don't fall out of the tree or drop a bow, you slowly move, the wind's right. Like you can't really mess this up as far as getting a shot wise. So I've got a lot more comfortable, and that buck gave me a lot more confidence of he moved around in front of me. He was there for like 15, 20 minutes, never busted me, nothing. Of course I was filming and moving the camera around and trying to get it situated too. So it gave me a lot more confidence.
So we should talk about this before we go any deeper. I talked a little bit about the deer that I was after. What deer were you in there after? Like so specifically?
We have a few. One that I really, really had my eyes on that he's just, he's only showed up at the feeder twice. We have a wide. He's a 9-point, but he's a mainframe 8. He's the one that I really was just praying, like, please
step out.
Through. Yeah, please come through. Then, of course, we have a few like the 11-point, Mr. Next Year, the old one. Any one of those deer, come through there. Those are the deer that have showed up at that feeder that were a possibility. We have other deer that showed up to the north feeder. They're not going to go that far down there, I don't think. It's possible, but those were mainly the deer. Mr. Next Year, the 11, the old one, and the wide one.
So were you guys expecting to see some stuff, or like how? Because I kind of want to emphasize like the camera situation, because Christian, you said that the buck that you shot hasn't been on camera for a while. Carroll, your spot you were hunting, did it even have a camera or no?
Oh yeah, it's got cameras, but it was
right.
Very, very clear. That was like the eye opening. Christian, we were talking about, oh man, these cameras. I know there's bucks out there. It's not taking photos. Like there were so many more deer that came through that just never went 5 foot within the camera that I saw. It was just like, oh wow, yeah, there were a lot more deer than those cameras show.
So what was your mindset going into it? If you didn't have good, consistent photos on your camera, like kind of walk me through your mindset of how you expected the hunt to go.
I mean, I'm pretty optimistic most of the time. Of if I'm not feeling optimistic, I won't go. So
fair weather hunter.
No, seriously, I tell myself like I have confidence. I'm out here. I'm waking up early. I'm walking out here. I'm spending money, time, energy, effort. Like I have confidence to be out here. So I always go in thinking I'm gonna harvest. So that was my mindset. And plus I just know, from previous years of this place it's pretty magical when it comes down to deer movement and what that land can hold. So I'd have that, in my back pocket of even if there's not deer on camera, I just know like there's always a chance here.
So. I think mine was somewhat similar. Like I don't do this for my health. So I'm not out there to like, if I want to go just drive around and see a deer, I'll go do it in my neighborhood. If I'm driving 6 hours, I'm trying to kill one. But it was weird because like the 3 days or 4 days leading up to the season, like I got a picture of one shooter, like the last 4 days I had a picture of one shooter and I don't even think it was in daylight. And I remember Payton, you weren't getting any pictures over at the other lease either. It was like one buck maybe was showing up, not even consistently. Like it was like every other day or something like that.
Yeah. There was nothing consistent where I was even calling you. Like I was going to go regardless, but I was messing with you. I was like, man, there hadn't been nothing on camera. I'll probably wait. Like, I'll probably wait a few more days or a few more weeks, but I was going regardless. But yeah,
what did I say to that?
I don't remember verbatim, but
I said I'm going to hunt regardless. You need to be too.
Yeah. I mean, there was no reason to stay in.
No.
So, especially that cold front moving through.
Exactly. And you realize like what I realized this hunt was I checked my camera after the hunt and I had deer covered up in me all morning, like deer all around me. And I checked and I had like 4 pictures and it was only the does. And I was like, okay, this is not this, no matter the brand, no matter whatever, these cameras do not tell the whole story. So if you're basing your like decision to hunt off of them, probably not the only criteria you should consider, but I'm trying to stretch it out before the actual moment of truth. But this hunt, like for me, was so quick.
There ain't no stretching out your hunt. I mean,
there was like, no stretching it out.
I was busted all morning, and it's like for what, 15 minutes?
No, this was after the shot. No, I like I said, I got up in there. That mature buck was standing on the other side, probably 30 yards away from me, just 25 yards away, just held up. And I had a bunch of deer filter in real close to me, and I was watching them with my binos. There was there were several little bucks and some does mixed in. And I was just watching. I was like, cool. And then from the direction I walked in, like I told you earlier about that big blowdown right there, how there was an entire tree laid over, like right in front of my tree to the right. I looked over and I just see something. You know how in that dim gray light, you just see like figures? It's just like almost like a black blob moving.
Is it a bush? I don't know.
Yeah. Is it a pig? Like, what is it? And so I just see this blob moving in, and like, dude, there's barely any wind at all. Like the wind is that, I think that's why it was swirling so much. It seems like it swirls a lot more when it's not like heavy wind. If it's like 15 or 20, it seems like it's pretty consistent. But when it's like 5 or 10, it just seems like it swirls. And it was real quiet in there. And I remember getting my binos out, and it was like the entire way. And I was like, awesome. And then I put them up, and I just see that beam of that buck on that one side. I was like, yep. Just put him right back. Put him right back in. And I'm like recording. I'm recording this whole time on my GoPro above me. And then I walk over, step over, and I hit the record on my big camera, and I frame it up, and I turn the ISO up on my big camera. At this point, it's like right at shooting light. And I turn up the ISO on my big camera, and it's like kind of grainier footage. But when I turn the ISO up on my camera, I can see the full rack, like of him sitting there. And I'm like, okay. I was like, it's 6, like it's literally opening daylight. I was like, there's no way this is going to work out, because it just never ever works out that way, except for last year. And this stand is like at a 20-degree angle. So you have to kind of sit in it like this, leaned over. And so I stand up and I draw back on him, and I got like good light in my peep. Like I can see everything. But I remember when I walked in, I looked at my sight tape and I put it on there. I was like, all right, it's on 20 for sure. Awesome. Well, I drew back on this buck. I put it on him, and I'm not shooting Luminox or anything right now because I just changed arrows and shot. And we just switched to the single barrel broadheads this year. And I shot, and it was like a shot I'd never heard before. It sounded like it just hit the ground. I was like, what the frick? Like, what was up with that? Like, I was on him. That's weird. And so for like a minute or two there, I was like, I just freaking missed. Like, this sucks. And I went back on my camera and I looked, and he was at like 19 yards. I ranged exactly where he was standing. And on the camera, you just see the arrow slice through like such butter. It's like, I know you hear ranch fairies say like they're not even there. It was legitimately like he wasn't even there. You just see the arrow like does not slow down at all. It hits the ground and goes and just flies off. I'm like, oh my God. And I hit him probably 2 or 3 inches higher than I wanted. But I looked at my sight after that. It was on 25. It's like, ooh, that
so were you a little high?
A little high. Yeah.
Because
like probably 2 or 3 inches high.
Typically, if you have your like a heavier arrow, your obviously your pin gap is, which I know you run a single pin, but that can drastically affect, whether, even if you're 5 yards off, whether you're really high or really low.
Yeah.
And so what's your arrow setup, and like basically your whole setup, just for, let's say, new listeners, they don't know. And, let's say they want to build a similar arrow. I'm not trying to get completely off topic, but just so they know like the full story.
Yeah, I was shooting a 575 grain arrow, Exodus NIS, and I have like a 31-inch draw length, so my arrow is like 30.5 inches, 575 total weight. I'm shooting a VPA single bevel broadhead, 150 grain up front. So I shoot super long arrows, so it's hard not to build a heavy arrow for me. It's just so much arrow there. So, and then I'm shooting 65 pounds, 31-inch draw, and it just. So I've got a fair amount of energy and momentum, and it blew through like butter. And it just confused me so much when I heard it on the shot, because I was like, dude, I freaking missed. Like, I just stuck that sucker in the dirt, and it just kicked off and ran, and just, skidded off. And I was like, frick. And I watched it back on the video, and on the video, it's just, I recorded in 120 frames per second. So like super slow-mo. And I played it like frame by frame. And it's just like butter. And I immediately took that video. I was like sending it to people, and everyone's like, okay, yeah, that looks really good. I thought it was a little bit high, but as a person that shoots, it's like, okay, you always think it's a little bit worse than it was. But yeah, and what was crazy about that too was I shot that buck and I figured it didn't go very far. Like a buck I shot at that place last year ran 25 yards and fell over. And I didn't think this buck went super far, but there were several does that came in. And like I told you, the wind kept switching and hitting me in the side of the face. And so they would blow and they'd run off. And then I had another doe circle all the way around me and walked like 25 yards, like the direction where that buck ran off. Cause all of them scattered when I shot and like she blew. I was like, oh, maybe that buck's over there. And then another group of does walked over there and they both blew. I was like, ooh, I think that buck is like dead over there. Cause they'll do that. Like I've actually shot a doe before and on a buck's way, like this 130-inch 8-point was on its way in to us and it saw the doe bedded down that I had shot that was dead. And he like hung up at the fence and was like waiting, like what's going on here? There's a dead deer laying right here. Like I'm not coming out. So I've had that bite me in the butt before, but it's not going to bite you when you shot a buck already. But they kept blowing like that.
Could have been Carroll's story.
Could have been Carroll's story. Yeah. After I shot that buck, I told you guys earlier that like I was in there after 2 different deer. Like there's 2 different 10s. One of them is the one I shot, and then which is the smaller 10, and then the other one is like a 6.5-year-old 10 that is probably mid 140s. He's just a beautiful symmetrical deer. And as all these deer are blowing to my it'd be like to my northwest, and I see tines. This is like 15 minutes after I shot my buck. I see tines standing over there 30 yards away, and I know it's that other buck. And I'm like, oh my God, Lord, why? Like I should have got out of the stand. And I look over there and I see those tines, and I'm like, dude, at the time this deer is standing there are deer blowing like every 10 seconds. Like, ah!
Dude, that is so wild.
Ah! And that buck is like, I just see the tines kind of move up and he looks around a little bit. And I'm like, okay, he's going to work his way off. There's no way he's coming in. And then like 10 minutes later, I see those tines walking through. And I'm like, please, God, don't come in here and make me do this. Because backstory, I'm on the lease with a buddy named Drew. And I know Drew would do the right thing in this situation. But there was a moment in my mind where I was like, all right, I'm just going to have to write Drew a check for this lease and just apologize. And I won't be on this lease again. Like that's the decision that I had like halfway made in my mind. And this buck steps out at 30 yards and just turns, and I just see that rack, and I'm like, that's the biggest deer I would have like ever shot. I've been using the new Exodus Rival cell camera for the last couple months, and I have found a beautiful mainframe 8-point with tons of stickers to go after this fall.
Ooh.
One thing I do appreciate about Exodus trail cameras is all of the cameras share the same data plan, so you only pay for what you need. A lot of cell cam companies charge you for HD pictures. I've seen prices of $5 for 50 HD pics. Exodus is going to give you unlimited HD pictures right to your phone, which is awesome when you're sitting there in the middle of the summer and it's 100 degrees and you just want to binge a bunch of trail cam photos.
If you're looking for a solid cell camera with great performance and a 5-year no BS warranty, go check them out. So as we all know, hunting gear is something people can make way too complicated. Arrows can be the exact same way. Instead of going down all those rabbit holes trying to sift through the endless information that's online and you're not really sure if it's right or wrong, Exodus makes it simple to get the right arrow for your exact setup.
So go online to the Exodus Arrow Builder. It takes less than a minute. You're going to enter your draw weight, your draw length, and how heavy of a point you're shooting. And it's going to be that simple. Let the guys at Exodus take care of the rest.
So if you're interested in Exodus Rival cell cameras or a new set of their MMT arrows, just go to exodusoutdoorgear.com and use code HA15 for 15% off anything on their website.
Once again, that is exodusoutdoorgear.com. Use code HA15 at checkout for 15% off. Now let's get back to the podcast.
How big was he, you think?
Like probably mid to upper 140s. So completely symmetrical, 6.5 years old,
10 point?
fully mature, 10 point. Yeah.
That's
really
cool.
good force, good beams. They swoop up, and he's probably 16, 17 inches wide. Just a beautiful deer. And he's standing there at like 30 yards max. And I'm like, please just keep it moving, brother. Like keep it pushing, like run away or do something. And he just throws that head back and forth. And at this point, there's a spike like 10 yards away from me. And the spike is like locked onto me. because I'm standing up with my bow in my hand and the spike's locked onto me, and the other buck is just like not a care in the world. And I watched him, and I had like a come to Jesus moment. I was like, okay, it's not a 160-inch deer. Like, this is not worth it. This is not worth not hunting here again. It's not worth explaining this to everybody. It's like, I'm going to let this deer go. And so I start immediately, the deer like takes his time, and I got it all on footage. He takes his time working off, and I immediately texted Drew because Drew was hunting like an hour away. I was like, you need to come in here and try to kill this deer. Like this, I just passed him, and I sent Drew the video, and he's like, on my way. Like he literally was hunting there like the next that evening, because there were all these does coming in and blowing at me, and I was texting Drew as these does are blowing at me like, hey, if you're not going to come hunt, I'm going to do some damage on these does. Like, I'm going to shoot 4 of them. But if you are coming to hunt, then I'm going to pass. And he's like, I'm going to come. Please don't shoot one. And so I let him go. Let them all walk. But I thought that was absolutely nuts. Never had that happen to me before.
There was something I was going to say, but I done forgot because I was trying to wait. Kel, you got anything while I think?
Well, I'll say this, that deer has been back in there. I mean, I'm on the pictures with you guys. So he's been in there a few times. Not in daylight very often. I think he's been in daylight one time in there since, but he's still coming in.
Yeah. Yeah, he definitely he was a killable deer. It makes me feel bad. I was just texting Drew. I was like, I wish we had a buddy stand, and I wish we were sitting together, because like we would have smashed almost 300 inches of bone. Because the one I shot was like 140, like pretty much even. And the one that Drew would have shot would have been like mid 140. So we would have been smashing some serious bone on opening morning. And that's how it goes, though. I knew it. Like when I shot that buck,
I just knew it.
When I shot that buck, I told myself, I was like, I need to get down right now because I know this big one's going to come in. And he did. I mean, I'm also not at the point in my hunting journey where 5 inches is going to stop me from shooting a buck. You know, like I'm not going to wait for a 145 if a 140 walks in. There's no way. So when that other one walked in, I'd already made up my mind. Hammer down.
So moving on. So how long did you wait to, I mean, because you figured the deer was dead, but after the shot, like how long did you wait?
I waited probably, shot the deer around 7, and I think I waited till like 7:50 or 8 o'clock or something like that, because, and dude, it felt like it was a long hunt because I had deer coming in every direction. I've probably seen 10 or 12 different deer, which probably 3 or 4 different bucks. And then, so I got down and I was like, all right, I'm not going to blood trail. I'm going to look for my arrow because I'm going to walk right over there where all those deer blew. Cause like 3 different groups of deer had blew. I went over there, couldn't find my arrow, saw where it hit the dirt. And crazy enough, Drew was hunting today at the lease and he sent me a picture of my arrow. He found it.
Oh, really? Where was it?
It was several yards away, like in a tree somewhere. He found it. He sent me a picture of it. Broadhead was still good. I was like, awesome. I said, that's a $50 arrow. Please put that somewhere safe. And so he kept it. And he sent me the broadhead. Like, dude, it still look good. And I was like, sweet, I'm going to use that again. But he ended up finding the arrow. I walked around this cedar tree and took 2 steps, and I saw that beam, just that one side sticking up off the ground. And I was like, heck yeah. Because I thought the deer that I shot I thought he was a little smaller than what he ended up being. So when I walked up to him and I picked him up, and I sent you the picture. He has like a good side, not a good side and a bad side, but he has like a great side and like a good side. One side is would be like 125-inch 8, and the other side's like a 140s type of deer. And he has that one side has a 23-inch beam, and it looks like it just keeps going. Like it's whoosh, like a Nike swoosh, comes all the way out. And the second that I put my hands on him, I felt better about passing that other buck. I was like, okay, I shot a really good deer. I shouldn't even have had those thoughts in my mind. But you know how it is, because there was a moment in my mind too where I was like, dude, what if I don't even kill this deer? What if that was a bad shot and the deer just ran off? Because I didn't see him fall or anything. And so I was like, all right, I need to shoot this one. And then, I'll probably won't even find it. I don't know. You guys know how that
big deer
monkey
make
gets
people
on your
do
back.
stupid
Yeah.
things. But
Stupid things.
I mean, yeah, it's something that you almost have to be like super disciplined about, where it's like, okay, you have to have confidence in your shot. And even if you don't, it's just like, well, you always have to hold out for like, I probably hit it. I probably killed it. That's I mean, I haven't been in a situation where I see multiple good bucks in one sit, so I don't have to have that problem, I guess. But I understand what you're saying, though.
No, I mean, it's a blessing to be able to hunt a place like that. I mean, it's freaking awesome. But no, I walked up to him and drug him out of there. I was like tickled pink when I walked up to him. I was like, dude, this is such a cool deer, because I picked him up. It's like he has two different like genetics. Like one side is one something, and then the other side is completely different.
It seems like that's kind of a common theme around there, though.
Yeah. Well,
if you think about it.
Yeah, because I've shot a funky buck on that river before. Weird handlebar looking sucker. He's on this hat actually, but it was cool because when I ended up skinning him out, I skinned him all the way, caped him like to the skull, like European style. But I caped him out like to have a mount. I don't even know what you call that because I've only done it once. But I looked at his jaw. I took that bottom jaw off immediately. The left side, that funky side that he had, the entire row of teeth were gone, but like 2 or 3 teeth. Like he only had 2 or 3.
On that corn, baby.
Yeah. I mean, so Drew was talking to his one of his in-laws, and I guess one of them's a dentist, and he said what likely happened was like he got an abscess or like a pus pocket in there, and like it burst and it like got infected, and he lost like half of his jaw. Like it was like a 2-inch indention of just like a U where the jaw is just gone.
Wow.
And I don't know. I think that buck was probably 4.5 or 5.5. One thing I'm really excited about it was I ordered one of those deer aging kits where you send the first 2 incisors and they cut it and they count the rings or whatever it is. So I'm going to start doing that on every time I shoot. I think a mature buck, I'm going to try to do that, but I'm excited about that. I dropped that buck off yesterday at the taxidermist, and there was part of me that wanted to keep the skull cap because I was like, this is a good deer. Like I just want to hold this in my house.
That's a haul to bring it back,
Well, I plan on bringing him another one.
Yeah, but yours is going to be like one of the first mounts out of there. When
I dropped it off, there were 3 or 4 more bucks that had been killed, and I dropped that buck off on the 8th of October, and so I'm going to be in that first round for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was awesome. And one thing I wanted to say too about that deer is, so I have killed 2 opening day bucks back to back, which is crazy because before that, the earliest I'd ever killed a deer was like October 16th or something. And I never knew this about them, but in the early season, when they shed that summer coat and they move into the fall coat, like it's almost like a ghost gray color, and their coat is so smooth. Like it's real short hair because it's not a winter coat yet. Like it's almost like it's transitioning. And I showed it to Jared when I dropped the deer off to be mounted. And I was just showing him how smooth and like short that coat is, because you can tell on a mount, like if it was an early season deer, because they had that super smooth coat. And I love that crap. Like it is, because when you mount them, it just looks majestic. Like
I'm just happy you didn't get another full snake. That was my only request.
None of that. Jared tried to talk me into it. He forgot he had already sold me one of those. I was like, Jared, I have one of these. He's like, oh, really? He's like, yeah. Like, oh, okay. Well, this one will work then. I got him in like a super safe form, just upright with
like the most common one.
Yeah, like you think of a deer mount.
6900 or something.
Well, this one's an 8900, I believe, but it's just basically the only difference is one has like a rut neck on the side, like a little bit of a bulge for a rut neck, and then this deer was like an early season deer, so I'm like, I want it to look as early season as you can.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the only difference, and it's a really sick form. But no, it was an awesome hunt. It's crazy because when I shot that deer last year on opening day, I was fully prepared, like, oh, this is never going to happen again, because just so lucky, to be honest. And it happened again. But like Carol and I were saying, like, I wasn't going to go hunting if I didn't think it could happen. But we weren't getting like consistent pictures. We weren't, like, the wind was swirling. It was not necessarily ideal. Had to drive all night, but it ended up working out. So praise God. It was awesome. It was a really cool hunt.
So how's it feel? Like, I mean, I don't want to say pressure wise because I feel like that gets like put in a bad light. Like, oh, I'm pressured to, kill a buck or something. But how does it feel to go into the season October 1st and already have one of your tags filled? Because here in Oklahoma, we get 2 buck tags, 4 doe tags. And so having only 1 tag left and a very good buck, how does that feel leading into like, the rest of the season and let's say our rutcation on our public piece that we hunt? Like, because going into there, it's super low deer density. We call it the quality over quantity spot.
Yeah, I might only see one. Yeah,
exactly. Like you can sit there for a week and a half straight and not see a thing, but as soon as you hear those leaves start crunching, you turn around, it could be a dink or it could be a 160. Like you have no earthly idea. And so like that's the draw to hunt it. So but already having one good one down, and all right, so are you going to be super picky or are you still going to just, let arrows fly at whatever gets you excited? Like what's going on here?
My goal before the season was to kill a 150-inch buck. I didn't do this with this one. There's 140. I think I want to, like on public, I would still shoot a Pope and Young, no doubt, but I really want to kind of try to get to that next level of deer. But shooting one on opening day, it does take the pressure off, but the pressure is not from anyone else. It's only on it's a self-imposed pressure. Like right. I remember I was walking to the stand. I might have already told you this, but I was walking to the stand that opening morning and I was just saying a prayer because when you go to the stand for the first time every year, it's like majestic. Like it's incredible. It's like, this is happening again. Like, I can't believe I get to experience this again. And I was just praying and I was just like, hey, I may never, ever shoot another deer again. Like every time a new season starts, you think that like, hey, I might have shot my last one I've ever shot the previous season. So I was just thankful, but shooting that buck takes a lot of that self pressure off and does allow me to be a little bit more picky. But it's weird because when I drop the deer off at the taxidermist, until I get that deer back, it's like it never happened. I like forget about it.
Out of sight, out of mind. Yeah.
Like it's gone. It's like, I didn't kill that deer. It's not here. Like I'm just as like jacked up about it today as I was 7 days ago or 9 days ago when I killed that deer, because it's like, I want to kill my first one. Like if I shoot one this next weekend when we go, I'm going to think I have another tag for like 2 minutes because I'm gonna be like, oh no, I don't have another tag. That's how my mind works. When I drop it off, it's like, okay, it's go time again. Like I have the same, a lot of people might shoot one and be like, okay, I'm good for the season. That was fun. My wheels immediately start turning like, oh, what if I could shoot a bigger one? And then what if I could go somewhere else? Like that's kind of how my brain works. But I'm very thankful, but I'm not trying to be greedy about it, but it's almost like it never happened in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
At least
that's good because then it keeps the drive, because like starting to hunt public and stuff, it's like it wears on you and like it can take a toll on you. So still having that drive and not being complacent, I mean, that's gonna benefit you in the long run for sure.
I think so. And I've got some cool hunts lined up between public and then that recurve draw hunt that I have. Like I have a lot still coming up in the next 2 weeks. So I'm trying not to be complacent because I know an even
There's
bigger
still a
one,
lot of season left.
and even could walk in. And if I'm not ready when that happens, I'm going to be pissed at myself. Yeah. So I've still been shooting and trying to keep my mental gears going. And especially like moving into now the season where we're like this part of the season where we're hunting public land, it almost gets my gears going even more because it's not as easy as walking in and hunting a corn feeder or walking in and doing that stuff. Like I have to start thinking a little bit more. So it's fun. I'm excited. It makes me even more excited about the rest of the year. But yeah, it was awesome. Carroll, what ended up happening the rest of your hunt?
For the first day?
Yeah, no. We're gonna say that the full story. Let's just talk about the first day.
The first day, I had a few groups of doe come in. I realized about that morning, it didn't hit me till that afternoon because you and I went to hunt that afternoon. I didn't see any, bucks or anything that morning. We went to go grab lunch, get your deer cleaned up, prepared, and then we went out that afternoon. And I was sitting there thinking,
oh, no, we got to stop. When we ate Mexican at lunch, what did that girl end up saying to us when we were sitting there eating?
She said something like, "Oh, y'all hunters?" Like, or I don't.
Were y'all fully decked out?
Oh, yeah, full decked out.
Yeah, full decked out, blood on us. Like, "Oh, y'all hunters?" Like, Yeah, we try. I was like, we're just getting into it. I don't remember
Little
all.
do you
What
know,
all
we
did
just
we
killed the
say?
whole family, but you know,
Yeah.
Yeah,
whatever.
Christian. I was like, I actually just started. I was like, I actually can't shoot past 20. This is like my first year hunting and all.
Christy
this.
said that.
No,
No,
that's what
Carol
I
said
said.
that.
And Christian
Uh,
was. I don't remember what Christian.
I was like, my biggest one's was a 3-point or something, and she's like, I haven't even shot one yet. And Carol was like, I couldn't hit the broadside of the barn if I tried to shoot at one. And like we had her going, and it was just funny because we had a big buck in the back of the truck, like 30 yards away, and we were like, dude, yeah, we couldn't see one. We didn't. She asked us what we saw, and we're like, we didn't see a dang thing. Like, we were
Oh yeah, because I was like, well, I normally like what time was daylight? Like I could shoot from 7. I'm normally in and out in 30 minutes. Like if I don't see one right off the bat, I was like, I just go home. You know, like we had her going.
Oh,
so
she
good.
kept coming back to the table and asking us stuff. Like we had her going. It was fun. Okay, you can continue your story, but that was hilarious. I just remembered that.
But yeah, we were sitting in the tree, and I looked. You know, that October 1st, and that evening, I was like, hey, this sounds horrible, but I didn't hear the feeder go off this morning or this evening, and I was like, huh. You know, and we sat there for a few hours, and we saw a few doe. What we saw, like 4 or 5 doe, I think.
Got blown out a few times.
Yeah, I got blown out.
We had every doe came into range. Like we had one walk like 10 yards, just asking for it. Carol's like, I'm about to shoot her, and I was like, no, let's wait. I wanted.
Well, she just sat there, dude. She just sat there, and I was like, "Ooh, she's gonna be a blower. She's mature. I'm a shooter. And I was like, "Nah, it's not worth that." But anyways, yeah, we realized the feeder had never went off, and that's when it kind of started stirring in our head of like, "Hey, this might be why we haven't really been, because this land it's prime time. This lease it's good. It's really good. We stay out of there. We do exactly what we need to do for it to be good. And we realized, hey, we haven't really had the photos or anything. And after the hunt, we went there and realized that little chip, the little,
it's a timer is what it is.
Yeah. The timer wasn't going off. So like the feeder just wasn't spinning, but
there was still like 3/8 of the corn was left. It just was not spinning.
So was the screen still working?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So have y'all fixed it yet? That's what I'm asking.
Yeah. We already fixed it. We bought a new one.
Okay, so usually if the screen still turns on and you can set the time and the feeder, but it won't spin, that's usually due to the battery being low. It has nothing to do with like the screen or anything. You just swap out the batteries because it has enough juice to like work the screen, but it doesn't have enough juice to spin the feeder. Does that make sense?
That's the first thing we did was bought a new battery and it didn't work.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, on my feeder, that's what happened, and that's how I fixed it. So. My apologies.
We thought the exact same thing. That's why we went and bought that battery. But while we were there, we're like, let's buy a battery and the timer, because I'm not driving 30 40 minutes back and trying this again. It'd be more in gas to go get a timer than it would be just to buy one, because it's about $20.
Yeah. That's why I make Carol drive. It's fine.
Yeah, I did make Carol drive. But when we got in the stand, me and Carol got in the stand that evening. He was in the stand, and I brought my saddle platform and like did some major trimming in that tree, and like basically got to where I could sit on my Ridge Runner and like turn my back to the tree, and I was just like leaning back against the tree chilling the whole time, and Carol was like in the hot seat. And I think we got that stand set up, Carol, now we're like you could film in it really easily with 2 people.
Yeah
really easily. So I'm excited about that. If anything, just to lay down 100
the saddle again.
Dude, it was cool. It felt good, like to hang that.
Yeah.
Even though we didn't climb the tree with the sticks or anything, just to hang that saddle platform and to be in there, it feels weird, like foreign. When you put it on for the first time, you're like, "Ooh, I remember the old way."
Do I have everything working right? Like, is this how it's actually supposed to go? Yeah. And then you have to trust it. And it's like, I hope I did everything right.
I know one of these times I'm gonna think I clipped in and just lean back, and I'm gonna go wee.
Oh, I always have my or at least for the first couple of times, I have my lineman's belt like just super super loose. So like if for some reason the tether does whatever, I get the hook in. At least I'll like be close to the tree as I'm falling rather than like just, oh, see ya.
But I thought about that before. You honestly, I think I'd rather just fall straight on my back than with the lineman's rope, because you would hit every stick on the way down with the lineman's rope around. You'd be like ding, 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 ding.
Yeah, but sooner or later, like maybe after the first or second stick, surely like it'll all get wrapped up where you won't like hit the ground, because
you would think.
I don't think falling
me out of my
15. Misery. Yeah, but here's the thing. I don't think falling 15 feet would like obviously hurt you. But the thing is, if like Lord forbid someone fell on their neck, because I listened to a podcast about this. A dude, like, he's only up 15, 20 feet, and he was just in a regular hang on, and I don't think he was wearing a safety harness or whatever, but he actually fell, landed directly like on his neck, felt everything crunched. He laid there for like 12 hours before anyone came looking for him.
Are you serious?
Completely paralyzed.
Did it paralyze him?
Down. Yep, neck down.
Well, because that happened to
So
to Tanner.
I would rather like get cut up by my sticks for, or scratched up from the bark than like possibly land on your neck. Because like if you break an arm, you freaking break an ankle or something. But dude,
I guess I didn't think about the paralyzed part of it, because Tanner a couple of years ago fell out of his tree while he was like trimming the shooting lanes, wasn't strapped up, and like he landed on his like neck and broke his back, like parts of his back. That's nothing to mess around with. That is one reason I do like the saddle, because it does have the lineman's belt and all that crap. I think it's way more safe. But yeah, Carol and I hunted that evening together, and it was funny because Carol let this doe and fawn walk, and we're like, all right, let's just let him walk. Maybe a buck will come in. And that doe and fawn gets like 20 yards downwind, and they go, ah, ah, and he's like, I should have shot her.
Told you.
That's how it always works. The one you let go like decides to betray you. Yeah, that's a lose-lose, because if you would have posted that like on TikTok or something, you would get absolutely railed in the comments, like, oh, shooting a doe with a fawn, good job. And it's like, dude, shut up.
When their spots are gone, they can survive on their own. They really
I think
can.
so.
They can. Like, they really can. I mean, the imaging on it looks wrong, but I mean,
well, I went, what was it? It was this last Sunday evening. So yeah, it was yesterday evening. I went and I had a doe and two little fawns walking in. It was weird because like the two fawns were like different sizes, but they were still both small enough where they could possibly be from this year's fawn drop. But one was like, the size difference was just weird. And one of them like looked super short nose, and like was still trying to like get up under and get a little bit of milk and cookies. But
what the other one look like?
I mean, it was like a mid size between them both, but like it looked like too small to be a 2-year-old. So it was weird.
Well, there's those does that, and I've shot them before. They're like yearling does, so they're like not this year, but the year after. Like they're a 1.5-year-old, and they're not as big as a mature doe, but they're not a
late drop from last year. Then maybe I don't even know if they could do that.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Don't get me talking about genetics.
I don't know.
Yeah. I'm trying to think what else before we want to, because Carroll's got his completely separate story on that buck, which was the next morning. So yeah, I think that was it on that particular hunt. But
I did want to ask you before you hopped off, because you mentioned about the draw hunt you did for the recurve only. Have you still been shooting that pretty consistently?
Yeah, I've got where when I practice with my recurve, I'm shooting it every single day, especially after I killed one with the compound. I'm like, okay, I can really put some time in with the recurve. Like, it'll be okay if I don't shoot my compound today. Like, I need to be shooting my recurve and
you kind of do, because that's the next hunt up.
Yeah, and everybody that has told me about this hunt that has done it in the past is like, hey, I'm like, what's your one regret you wish you would have done? They're like, shoot my bow more. And I'm like, really? And then I asked the next guy, and it's the same thing. And I asked the next guy, and it's the same thing. And so I was just texting with Jordan and Justin yesterday. I'm like, hey, how different is it shooting a recurve out of an elevated position versus on the ground? They're like, dude, super different, like very different. I'm like, okay, so I need to do that still, start shooting from an elevated position. I've got to where in my yard, what I've been doing is like picking a random spot and distance in my yard. So like I'll shoot at 14 yards and then I'll walk back to 25 at a different angle, and then I'll walk to 19 and just like kind of pick a spot, like basically throw an arrow and shoot there. Because what you have to understand is like the aiming is different. It's not like you have a sight, so you're just aiming with your arrow. And what happens is when you're shooting is you think like, oh, this is what the aiming would look like at 15 yards. This looks good. And you shoot and the arrow's 6 inches low. And you're like, oh, because I'm at 20, I need to be higher. Right. And so sometimes I forget that, and I'm shooting at 25 and I shoot and it's a foot low. And I'm like, oh, because I aimed like I was at 15. That's why I have to aim a foot higher, So that's something that I'm getting used to. that I think my maximum range would be like 25. And I think that would be like a prayer.
With that being said, are you just like throwing, like, you're probably not even going to take your rangefinder then?
I'll probably take my rangefinder, but the thing is, dude, when they get 25 and under, you're like close enough.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's close enough to try. So that's how I feel about it. I mean, the reality is I need to go down to the lease and shoot a doe or two before I do this, but I just don't know when that'll happen. So we're kind of getting here to crunch time. I look up and I'm like, how is it October 9th? Like, this makes no sense. So
time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah, the recurve is, dude, it's so freaking awesome. I'm saying that today, and people should clip this, because then the 20th or the 30th, I might be like, yeah, I'm gonna use it for firewood. You know, so it's awesome. I love shooting it, but I have not shot an animal with it. I can tell you what, if I do shoot a big one with it, I'm gonna feel like freaking Bear Grylls and like all those dual survival guys. It's gonna be awesome.
Well, regardless, we're going to have another hunt talk episode about that. So if you guys want to stay tuned for anything that happens this hunting season, be sure to, I don't know if you follow this on the podcast app or how you do it.
Yep. Follow.
You follow it. I don't know if you can turn on notifications or anything. I am foreign to the podcast world.
Yeah. No, you just, give us a follow on the, wherever you listen to the podcast. So it's Google, Apple, Spotify,
OnlyFans.
Yeah, shut the frick up. And we have it on YouTube. I did want to say thank you guys, because we blew past 1,000 on the YouTube channel. Like, we were at 900 for a couple days, and then I look up a week and a half later and we're like almost at 1,200. So the podcast channel has been going pretty awesome, and you guys got us past 1,000. So we really appreciate it. And we did have an awesome review on Apple Podcasts that I wanted to read. So if you guys are listening and you haven't left us a review, wherever you're listening, Spotify, Google, Stitcher, wherever, please leave us a review, because it helps us reach more people. But this guy is named Trapper Tumlin 93. Assume he's born in 93. Or that's his favorite number, one of the two. He said, great hunting podcast, tons of info. He gave us 5 stars, and he said, can't say enough about these guys. Great information they give out, and an awesome guest they have on. I'm from Georgia and really enjoyed the Michael Lee episode. Y'all should keep the ball rolling with more Southern hunters. Get somebody like Michael Perry from Alabama. He's a monster buck killer, all on public land. Or Wes Moy, also a public killer from Alabama. Keep up the great work, guys. This guy sounds like he wants to hear some more Alabama episodes.
It sounds like he's just trying to get some more pins. So, you know what, Trapper boy? Find your own pins. How about that? I'm just kidding.
No, we actually had the suburban bow hunter guys, Cheeto and
BJ Davis.
Yeah. Cheeto and BJ, we had them on, which they're from Alabama. They hunt. So that's another episode if you haven't checked that one out. But no, we really appreciate the reviews. And we actually had a really cool email today that you sent me a screenshot of, a guy that's hunted a bunch of Alaska stuff. So we might end up doing a podcast about that with Garrett. But a lot of cool stuff coming up. And I did want to tell people, I think this is exciting. Maybe other people won't find it as exciting. We got the actual headphone microphones that you can do podcasts pretty much anywhere now. So our Hunt Talk episodes now, when we're hunting public land, are going to be from camp, which I don't know why that pumps me up so much, but yeah, semi-live podcast at camp. And we're going to put those out kind of as we record them. So you guys can keep up with us more. Like, I know this episode took 8 or 9 days for us to record, but we had weddings and all kinds of other crap going on. But hunting season, honeydews. Lauren got mad at me today. She told me, have you guys heard of a boo basket?
A what?
It's called a boo, like BOO. Apparently in the fall, guys go buy baskets for their chicks, and they basically put like fall inspired things in it, like blanket or like a chocolate or all this stuff. Lauren was like, I thought you were going to get me a boo basket to celebrate hunting season. And I was like, why would you be celebrating hunting season?
I'd say I thought you were going to get me a new bow to celebrate hunting.
Yeah.
I'll speak for all the guys out there by saying, no.
That was my thoughts exactly.
Just do it so you get to go. So.
There's Carol.
I've never heard of that in my life. It's almost like during the winter. It's what was it called? A squabble or squall or
squall? Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude,
a snow squall. It's like it's a freaking snowstorm. It's like, okay, J hooking. It just say what it is. They're scent checking.
I think somebody at Target was like, dude, we got to make some more money. Open up to TikTok. We got to create something. So that's definitely what happened. But anyways, I hope everybody that's listening has shot deer or is on one that they're pumped to be chasing. And we got another cold front this weekend, so it's really exciting. But in the next episode, we're going to be talking about Carroll's story about a hunt that he recently went on this last weekend, or not this last weekend, the weekend before. But so stick around for that one. That's going to be a good one too. But with that, we'll catch you guys in the next one.
Jesus loves you.
Bye. Thank you guys so much for checking out the Hunter's Advantage podcast. If you enjoyed the episode, make sure to leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcast, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen to the podcast. Thank you guys so much, and we'll see you in the next episode.